نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بك من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال عز وجل في الكتاب المجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal. We recognize that our time here is limited and there are many responsibilities as fathers, as students, as professionals, as citizens, as people who are working hard day and night, inshallah, to bring good, to bring change, that which is good for humanity, inshallah. We have a great responsibility and limited time. And that limited time and that responsibility and hopefully, inshallah, good work in the hereafter will enable us to attain a garden, a piece of land that's many times more than a few acres that we look for, or hundreds of square feet that we appreciate. So inshallah, that is our dua and that is our maqsad. And with that comes the rada, with the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what we see. I remind you and myself that we have given a pledge. It's a pledge that you mention every time in your prayer, every salah. If not once, twice. And that is when you raise your finger and you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, that I believe, I witness, and I have faith that there is no other priority other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in my life. He is my goal, He is the maqsad, He is that which I strive for. And so you mention that and you say that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. La ilaha illallah. And that the meaning of that is that you give preference to Allah over everything else. If there's a clash, you always obey Allah. Of understanding, of commands, of anything, Allah comes first. And how do we know Allah comes first? It's by simply adhering to that which is good. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah that from amongst people, there are those who say, and pay attention to what they say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا, give us from this life of this world. And Allah says, they will not have anything in the hereafter. Pay attention. They say, give us only from the life of this dunya, the good things from the life of this dunya. And they will not, Allah didn't say they will not have it in this life and in the hereafter. He said they shall not have it in the hereafter. And then He says, and amongst those, there are those who say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And inshallah, may Allah accept us amongst those people. There are those who say, give us the best of this life and give us the best, the hasana, in the hereafter, and save us and protect us from hellfire, from fire. And so these are the people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala identifies as those people who are on guidance. And we long to be with them, inshallah. Today, since I see many of our children, students, and our teachers, I want to start with a story, inshallah. And that is really what the khutbah is all about, as we learn and as we grow as Muslims. Some time ago, I heard this story, and this goes back to the city I love. and the city I want to go back to. And this is about the city of Damascus, the oldest living city, where many civilizations have existed. And so one of the reporter, he was what they call them miracle hunters. You know, you have the storm hunters, you have the hurricane hunters, you have all these people who are looking for these things. So one of the Western person or reporter, he went to Damascus looking for miracles. And he asked people, he says, oh yeah, go to Sheikh so-and-so. And I witnessed this in Damascus. I was in Jummah Khutbah. You would have so many people coming on the street, you couldn't pass through Maghrib and Isha after the prayers, because there were so many people coming in for prayer in those streets. And the streets are smaller, but you could see Muslims practicing, and it's a beautiful thing. And so they said, why don't you go to Sheikh Fulan and Fulan, and maybe he could help you. We know he performs great miracles. He's very close to Allah. So this Westerner, he went to this person looking for miracles. And so he said, what type of miracle? The Sheikh sat with him, and he said, what type of miracles are you? What are you looking for? I don't understand this. He says, like, you know, like people walk on water and like fly in the air, those type of things. I said, oh, okay. He says, maybe I'm a, faqir, and I'm very just another person with Allah. Why don't you talk with my sheikh? Maybe he knows better. I'm just an imam here, that's it. So the guy goes, okay, no problem. I'll go to the next person. So he goes to the next person. Great sheikh, great alim, he knows, mashallah, he's very knowledgeable. He goes to him, he's like, oh, subhanallah, we read about these people too, but I'm not those people. You know, go to maybe my sheikh knows more. My teacher, he's also very good. Maybe you go to him. I'm just a fucking, I'm just here, just a small person. Sorry, brother. So he goes to the next. Till he goes around, and every sheikh he says, no, I don't know of anything like this. Not me. Those are great people, miracles with Allah. Till he comes to a sheikh, and he is the grand sheikh, mashallah, in the city. And he has the halaqat, the durus, and majalis fil jana in the masjid. And so everybody recognizes him. And so the Westerner, he goes to the sheikh and he says, I have come to you, and this is it. Can you point me to the people who perform miracles? And the sheikh asks again, what miracles are you looking for? What do you mean by that? And he says, like people fly. They go, and they walk on water and things like that. So the sheikh says, oh, he's a great sheikh. Alim, scholar, alama. He says, oh, those people. He's like, not too far, we've always seen that happen. He goes, where? I want to record this. So he's like, okay, I will tell you. And this is mashhur. This is not something that is, people don't know. He says, where is it? I want to go there. So he says, you're talking about people flying, right? He's like, yes. He's like, a few miles down on that street, Shara, you'll see Damascus International Airport. Damascus International Airport. People flying every night, every day, flying in and flying out. Do you know that? And he said, but if you're interested in finding miracles, let me tell you about more miracles. It is for people to say Shahada and live their life according to that pledge. That they will not do fornication, they will not commit adultery, they will not commit to liquor drinking and wine and gambling and lottery and all these sort of haram and nonsense stuff. That's the pledge, that's the miracle when people live through their lives. All that. When people will work and they will be honest people. They will not cheat people by telling them, oh, this is halal, mashallah. Oh, this is silk. Yes, beautiful, 100%. And then they cheat them. No, that's a miracle. You want to hear more? When people are caring and kind to their parents. And so he went on a list of things that he listed. He says, that's a miracle. If you're interested in flying, that's Damascus International Airport. Welcome. But if you're going to be a person of miracle yourself, perform these actions. and you'll find Allah in your life. Allah will be with you. Allah be with you. You raise your hands and He'll respond to your dua. But if you waste your time, and if I waste my time, we'll find ourselves just empty people. You know, empty vessels, you knock on them, they make a lot of sound. But they're hollow from inside. They're not gemstones. They're simply pebbles and rocks that you crash them. So today, my students, my teachers, my loved ones here, family and community, we're interested in miracles that when we perform, people look at us and they say, you're from the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know what type of person he was. We know that. It's just we have to inculcate that. Our religion, when we teach people religion, and the Prophet of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam, simple commands. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. That one who gives in charity and is God conscious, taqa, وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, and he believes in the good. Right? He understands, he has faith in the promise of Allah. We will make the path, this life, easy for him. We will make getting to Jannah easy for him. And then the opposite is true as well. Right? The opposite is true as well. The other thing I want to remind you, inshallah, as we are on this note, we have to understand that this deen is the deen of Allah. And that He commands us certain things. And those commands are good for us. If we practice them, we're with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in His obedience. And if we disobey Allah, then we're away from Him. And that is the simple way of putting it all together. And so there are many stories people tell, but the deen is very simple. It's a universal, whether you live in Tokyo or you live in New York City or somewhere else. You know the deen is easy. Do the right thing. Hasanat are good actions. Sayyi'at are bad actions. Dunub, them is something that has a tail to it. Something that is ugly. You don't like it. And so it's within our nature to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us. And so he mentioned, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ittaqullah haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Oh, you who believe, have taqwa of Allah. Be God conscious, as you are well aware how to have that taqwa in your life. And do not let this time go by وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, that you have submitted to Allah and you have become Muslim. وَأَقُولُ قَوْلِي هَذَا وَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ لِي وَلَكُمْ وَلِسَائِرِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, alhamdulillah. We talked about how deen is easy. And so I wanted to talk about very briefly from the perspective of, we always understand this dichotomy of deen and dunya. And a lot of times people say, oh, this is my brother, this is dunya. Don't do that. You're working too hard for the dunya. But our akhirah rests on our dunya. We have to be sincere, and that is what we were commanded. That is what the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to do. Right? Do the right thing, and that's what your akhirah it relies upon. And so there are 5 things I want to mention. We know the 5 pillars of Islam. I want to mention the 5 pillars of a good life. And this is just a way of looking at life again. These are responsibilities that we have, that we should check, make sure that our checklist contains all of these examples, or all of these, the list of items that I mentioned, inshallah. And that is under fresh, right? So finance, how are we doing in terms of our finance? How are we earning our incomes? one of the very first things that will be asked, how did you earn it? How did you earn it? Finance is taking responsibility and not putting yourself like, well, this is dunya, so I'm not going to do it. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on the earth to earn our livelihood. It's not going to be dropped. It's not always, yes, make dua and tawakkal. Tawakkal means you have to do the work. And so settling, this is some religious mentality. Sometimes we like to settle. We don't like, so shaitan comes in with different ideas, right? One is, don't work too hard, this is dunya, don't do this. You know, I know people who work 60, 70 hours every week of their lives. They've been doing it for the last 20 years. But what are they doing? That's the question. What are they doing for, inshallah, for Allah? They're helping in terms of a new hospital. They're doing chaplaincy work. They're doing great work with the community. Allahu Akbar. If you have more time, spend it in the right way. Don't say this is dunya, so I'm not going to practice and be the best. This is dunya for your akhirah. So we have to do رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا, and that is what we are seeking, hasana. So taking responsibility and disposing it in the right way financially. And the upper hand is better than the lower hand. The one that gives is better than the one receives. And so all of us, we have the intention, if I do well financially, I will help my brothers and sisters in humanity. And so this concept of be faqir and then ask Allah in people is not the one that was being taught by the Prophet ﷺ. That's not the one. He said the upper hand is better than the lower hand. The one who asks, that's not a better person. The one who gives. So financially we have to be sound. In terms of our relationship, and the question comes in, the challenge is not that how successful you are financially. Right? Risk comes from Allah, we know that. The challenge is to be balanced, that you don't overrun your other responsibility, where people are working hard, but they neglect their relationships, their families, their children. They went to school, they don't know what homework they did and what projects they had in 5th grade, and 8th grade, and 3rd grade, and senior year. You know, they don't know, what grade is your child? Oh, the older one is, I think, he should be 9th grade now. Dad, I'm in 11th grade. Oh man, time flies. SubhanAllah, I didn't even think about it. You know, those type of things, we have to, if family's not the most important thing, what else is? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions to us, and this is what we're seeking. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا. This is part of hasana. Work hard for hasana. It doesn't say He's going to give it to us for free. Nothing is for free. Finance, relationships, how we interact with one another. And there always has to be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how good you are, He will test you with your children and with your spouse. Your parents as well, but with your children and with your spouse. Why? That's just the way it is. Read the Quran, Surah Al-Tahrim, Surah Al-Talaq. How was the Prophet ﷺ tested? Right? Read it. It comes from the family. Right? He's really going through a lot of emotional pain because what is happening in his house as well. So you have to recognize that's just a way of Allah testing us, and we're finding darajat, higher and higher levels. And not darakat, lower and lower ranks, but higher ranks. If they scream, you say, MashaAllah, it sounds so beautiful. Right? If they throw things, hopefully not. You catch them and say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise you, inshallah, in higher ranks. But we're asking for Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. Finance, relationships, especially with our spouses. Education, not to give up. Men and women who tend to be after 30, we go on a cruise control in terms of our career. Why? Because this is dunya, don't chase after it. Oh, I have a safe job, I don't want to work too hard. And the entire life, they haven't accomplished much in life. And so we say, well, being safe is never a good choice because Allah will always test us. So doing the best we could in terms of our career. And not to take it as, oh, dunya, I can't do this. And then also education, career education and college education. PhD is the highest level we have. Why do people say, I want to get a bachelor so I can get a job and alhamdulillah, I'm settled? Why do we settle for here? Why don't we go there? Why don't we aim high as a community, as individuals? Why does it have to be this? Oh, I will memorize the short surah. 12 surahs. Surah Al-Nas, I know 12 surahs. Al-Kawthar. Why don't you go beyond that, my brothers and sisters? Why does it have to be small? Bachelor's is enough, I could get a job. We have to look at it from this perspective of, what did I do in my life? Did I gain with Allah? Did I do my best? Or was I simply a person who was just, I spend my time on cruise control? There's always video games out there. There's always Facebook out there. There's always social media out there. So we have to reflect from that idea. And this is again, when we're asking for Rabbana Atina Fid Dunya Hasana, we're seeking Allah, but we have to strive. We have to take an accountability of what we're doing in our lives. We can't go on cruise control, where, it's okay, let's just keep going. And so I mentioned spirituality is the next one. Finance, relationship, education, spirituality, having spiritual goals, having goals for al-akhirah, how I'm going to be a better person, inshallah. What are some of the things that I will do just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, so-and-so never helped me, so-and-so doesn't know about me, I will help them because it's for Allah. Right? We have no business, but I will help because it's for Allah. So we have to think about all these things and our health as well. Like, how are we doing in terms of not just mental health, but food health? This body of ours that has been given, it's a great responsibility. Allah, we're accountable to Allah for this. How we behave and what we eat and how we eat. That is one of the primary reasons why some of the things are haram to eat and indulge. Why is alcohol haram? Because it messes up your brain. It messes up your decision making. It's not good for you. That is the reason why it's being haram. Why the pigs? Well, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows when people eat that type of food, they act like those type of animals. Yes, that is true. Why dead things are haram? Because you don't want to have a dead soul. When you eat that type of food, you acquire these characteristics of dead people. People without any soul, people without heartbeat, people who are just dead to other people's sufferings. That is the reason why the people who eat that type of stuff, you may miss out on having compassion with other people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made it haram. And these are all health-related items that we could think and reflect about. So today, inshallah, my brothers and sisters, I remind you and myself to aim high. To not settle for little things in life. You have one life to please Allah. That's it. One life to please Allah. Let us be amongst those people. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبَّنَا عَلَيْكَ تَوَكَّلْنَا وَإِلَيْكَ أَنَبْنَا وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. Oh Allah, give us the certainty of faith. Oh Allah, give us all that which is good in this life and the hereafter. Oh Allah, make us amongst those people who take responsibility for our finance. Oh Allah, make us amongst those people who build and grow our relationship with each other. Oh Allah, make us amongst those people who are people of ilm, people of knowledge, people of education. Oh Allah, make us amongst those people who connect with you, who are people of Allah, spiritual people, always seeking to connect with you first. Oh Allah, give us good health and shifa, and those amongst us who are sick and suffering, oh Allah, give them shifa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Brother Akbar was saying he's in critical condition, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him shifa, inshallah, good recovery, and take care of him and his family as well. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقيموا الصلاة.